first.
Good morning, Grandfather, said Susan.
Good. I don't think there's anything good about it, grumbled the Doctor, who was not in a good mood. And why was he not in a good mood? It was the TARDIS. It had been making clunking noises all night long, and had kept the Doctor awake. Something was wrong, and the Doctor knew that he was going to have to land somewhere and fix the problem. The nearest planet was Earth. The Doctor did not like Earth. It was a small, ugly planet populated by particularly irritating people. Particularly irritating and not very clever people. But the Doctor had no choice. He and Susan landed in London. The Doctor was in one of those moods where he was best left alone. He set about fixing the TARDIS, and this put him in a better mood. He whistled as he worked. Whistling was something that the Doctor rarely did. The TARDIS was soon mended, and it was time to go. But where was Susan? Out exploring in the city, no doubt. The Doctor waited, and waited, and then he waited some more. He began to worry, and decided that he had better go and look for Susan. He stepped out of the TARDIS, and was immediately confronted by a group of strangely dressed people. The Doctor was appalled by their casual dress sense. "Hey man, what's your name?" asked one of the badly dressed people. "The Doctor," replied the Doctor. "Hey Doc, nice to meet you." The Doctor frowned. "I am not Doc. I am the Doctor. I am a Time Lord." "Wow, groovy." The Doctor frowned again. Groovy was another word he did not like. The Doctor had an awful feeling that all was not well, so he began his search for Susan. As he passed a dark alleyway, a movement caught his eye. There was something lurking in the shadows. The Doctor's quick mind instantly suspected an alien. Cautiously, he crept down the alley. Suddenly, a door opened, and the light from the doorway revealed that the shape in the shadows was a cat. With a sigh of relief, the Doctor returned to the street. He was still troubled. He could not put his finger on it, but he felt a strong sense that something wasn't right. And when he turned the corner, he discovered he was not wrong. He was right. It was the Cybermen. They were in London, and they were not on holiday. The Doctor knew the Cybermen well enough to know that they were not sightseeing. Cybermen were not interested in the changing of the guard. Cybermen were not interested in souvenirs. What they were interested in was taking over the world. The Doctor ran for his life as the Cybermen fired their lasers at him. The Doctor was not fast. He was far from the fastest thing on two legs, but he could still outrun the Cybermen. For in fact, the Cybermen could not run. He had to find Susan, and as luck would have it, he found her in the next street. She was listening to some music on a radio. Pop music. The Doctor could not have described pop music as music. He would have described it as noise. The Doctor frowned, but it gave him an idea. He made some quick adjustments to the radio. The radio waves drifted down the street, and the effect on the Cybermen was extraordinary. They were thrown into confusion. The wires crossed into their mechanical brains. Their legs jerked and their arms whirled. They did not know whether to take over the world or to dance. It was all too much for them. They turned tail and fled for their spaceship. The effect was equally dramatic on the Doctor. He smiled. "You're smiling!" cried Susan in amazement. "Nonsense," he huffed. "Time Lords don't smile." And, not for the first time that day, well, can you guess? That's right. He frowned. Doctor Second. The Doctor straightened his bow tie and stepped out of the TARDIS. Interesting, he muttered.
It's a museum, said Victoria, following the Doctor. Why are we here?
I'm not sure, but the TARDIS brought us here, and if the TARDIS brought us here, it brought us here for a good reason. A very good reason.
It's a shame that the TARDIS can't just tell us what that good reason is, said Jamie. It's not very helpful.
What? Gasped the Doctor. I won't have anyone suggesting that the TARDIS is in any way deficient. It is a magnificent machine. The Doctor was very proud of the TARDIS.
I was just saying, it does have a habit of dumping us in the middle of danger and then leaving us to it.
The Doctor glowered at Jamie and gave the TARDIS a pat. Now, keep your eyes peeled, said the Doctor.
What for?
Asked Jamie. Things, Jamie. Things that look unusual.
Everything looks unusual, replied Jamie. We're in a museum.
The three of them walked further into the museum, looking for the unnamed unusual thing. It was not easy searching for something when you did not know what you were looking for in the first place.
I'm getting the feeling this is all a bit of a waste of time, said Jamie.
Don't be foolish, said the Doctor. The TARDIS is always right. You'll find out what it is any moment now. You mark my words.
Do you think, began Victoria, that maybe, just possibly, the TARDIS was wrong?
What? Spluttered the Doctor. Wrong? The TARDIS is infallible. It is utterly reliable, unlike that boy. Where's Jamie gone? Wandered off again, I suppose. Maybe we should just go back to the TARDIS, suggested the Doctor. But there was no answer. Victoria? Jamie? The Doctor was all alone. Oh, my giddy aunt! He exclaimed. The Doctor walked warily on, and round the next corner he came to a Himalayan exhibit. There was a leopard, and a mountain goat, and a yak, and a Yeti! Well, that's odd, said the Doctor. I didn't think Yetis were... And then the Yeti moved. Real! Yelled the Doctor. The Yeti lunged at him, and the Doctor ran. Every way the Doctor turned, he was confronted by Yetis. He skidded into the medieval hall and knocked over a suit of armor. Crash! Which in turn knocked over another. Crash! The last suit in the row fell, revealing a Yeti holding Victoria. Its poleaxe struck the Yeti and knocked it over. My dear girl, cried the Doctor. Are you all right?
I am now, said Victoria.
But we have to rescue Jamie!
The Doctor looked down at the fallen Yeti. Look! It's not real! It is a robot!
Somebody must be controlling them,
said Victoria.
But who?
Somebody with an evil plan, replied the Doctor. Somebody with a remote control that is controlling the Yetis.
Will this help then?
Asked Victoria, pulling out a TV remote.
I was watching telly earlier.
It's worth a try, said the Doctor, aiming the remote control at the roaring Yetis. The Doctor pressed a button. The Yetis fell silent, but continued to advance. Sorry, silly me, that's the volume button, said the Doctor. Now, which one is the off button? Hang on. Just a minute.
Quickly, Doctor!
Yelled Victoria. Suddenly, the Yetis stopped in their tracks.
Well done, Doctor!
Cried Victoria. It wasn't me, said the Doctor. I didn't press anything.
Let's find Jamie,
suggested Victoria. The Doctor and Victoria rushed through the museum until they found Jamie. He was standing next to a pyramid of glowing orbs. A Yeti was serving him a drink on a tray.
I think these beasties have made me their king, he said. It seems that this here pyramid is the Yeti controller, and I am now in control.
Oh, my giddy aunt, exclaimed the Doctor.
Well, said Jamie when they were back in the TARDIS, it was lucky I was here. This old thing wasn't going to do us much good.
At that, he slapped the control desk. I will not have you criticizing the TARDIS, cried the Doctor. It is a wonderful piece of engineering, a veritable box of wizardry, a faultless mechanical miracle. Now, let's get out of here. The Doctor pressed the start button and nothing happened. The TARDIS had run out of energy.
Magnificent, chuckled Jamie.
Faultless,
laughed Victoria. Oh, my giddy aunt, sighed the doctor. Dr. Ferd. The doctor had been out shopping. He was rushing back to his laboratory in Betsy, his little yellow car. No time to waste, he muttered to himself. The doctor was in a terrific hurry. Now Betsy was no ordinary car. The doctor had added a few special modifications, one of which was a hyperdrive button that would make Betsy travel at supersonic speeds. The doctor was about to press the button when he spotted someone waving on the side of the road. It was Mike Yates. His Land Rover had broken down. "Hello, any chance of a lift?" Yes, said the doctor, agitatedly. "But make it quick. I need to get back to the lab as soon as possible." "Blimey, sounds important," said Mike, jumping in. The doctor nodded. "It is," he said, roaring off down the road. "Some sort of experiment, is it?" asked Mike. "You might say that," muttered the doctor. The doctor was again about to press the hyperdrive button when they saw someone on the side of the road. Again. It was Liz Shaw, who was just coming out of the library. Her arms were full of very heavy-looking science books. "That's Liz," said Mike. "Looks like she needs a lift." "Hell's bells," grumbled the doctor, pulling over to let Liz in. "Make it quick," said Mike. "The doctor's in a terrible hurry. Some sort of urgent experiment."
Really?
said Liz.
Anything interesting?
"Very," said the doctor, jamming Betsy into gear. "I bet it's a top-secret experiment," suggested Mike. "Possibly," said the doctor tensely. For the third time that day, he was about to press hyperdrive when the journey was interrupted again. It was Joe Grant. They stopped to give her a lift. It was a very overloaded Betsy that set off again. A very overloaded and slow Betsy. "Good grief!" cried the doctor in exasperation.
Is it starting to snow?
asked Joe. "It is," replied Mike.
How odd! Snow in the middle of summer!
Commented Liz.
I think it's getting worse,
said Joe, and indeed it was. They were suddenly driving through a blizzard, and then, without any warning, Betsy skidded sideways and slid into a ditch. "Blast!" cried the doctor in consternation. As they were trying to lift Betsy back onto the road, a line of figures appeared on the ridge above them.
Crikey!
cried Liz.
Those are ice warriors!
"They must have made it snow," said Mike. The Ice Warriors then raised their sonic disruptors and fired at the snowy slope, setting off a huge avalanche. "Quick!" cried the doctor. "Everyone back in the car!" The avalanche thundered down the hill, threatening to engulf them, but at the last moment, the doctor hit hyperdrive. Betsy lurched forward, and the avalanche lifted them up out of the ditch. The hyperdrive allowed them to surf on top of the advancing avalanche. As the avalanche slowed, Betsy shot clear of the snow and back onto the safety of the road. "Well done, Doctor!" cried Mike, but the doctor was still in a dreadful hurry. "We must get back to the lab before it's too late!" he cried. He streaked to a halt outside the lab and grabbed a grocery bag out of the car. The others followed excitedly, wondering what amazing event they were about to witness. In the laboratory, they crowded round as the doctor pulled a tub out of the bag.
That's ice cream!
exclaimed Liz. "What was all the rush about?" asked Mike. The doctor pulled the lid off the tub. "Bother!" he cried, crestfallen. "It's melted!" Mike and Liz and Joe all looked at the doctor.
You mean that was what was so urgent?
laughed Joe. The doctor glowered at the tub of ice cream. "Where's an ice warrior when you need one?" he huffed. Dr. Chapter 4.
Come along, Sarah, cried the Doctor.
The Doctor and Sarah Jane were running away. It seemed to Mary Jane that the two of them spent an awful lot of their time running, and mainly running away. And what were they running away from this time? They were running away from the Daleks.
Seek, locate, exterminate,
grated the Daleks in their metallic voices. Daleks don't run, but they do chase. The Daleks were a terrible alien race intent on just one thing: to destroy, to exterminate. To exterminate everything. Although some Daleks were rather better at exterminating than others, like number Z403, better known to his friends as Dale. Dale, the Dalek's energy ray, was not so convincing.
What are we going to do?
Puffed Mary Jane.
That's simple, cried the Doctor. Keep running and don't get exterminated.
Which, had to be said, made perfect sense.
If we can get to the TARDIS, then we can lead the Daleks away from this planet,
said the Doctor, skidding round a corner into an alleyway.
Doctor, that's a dead end,
warned Sarah Jane.
What are we going to do?
Climb the ladder, of course,
said the Doctor, and to Sarah Jane's surprise, there was indeed a ladder.
But how did you know?
Began Sarah Jane.
Keep up, Sarah, said the Doctor, clambering over the wall. And don't forget to pull the ladder up behind you and bring it with you.
The wall stopped the Daleks, but not for long. The Daleks did not need a ladder. In fact, Daleks don't climb ladders. Daleks have energy rays, and in a matter of moments, they had exterminated the wall. Sarah Jane and the Doctor came to a wide river. There was a drawbridge, but the control lever was on the other side.
Would you like a jelly baby?
Asked the Doctor.
I don't think this is the moment to be handing out jelly babies,
she cried in exasperation.
Not you, said the Doctor. That pigeon!
Sure enough, one of the pigeons did want a jelly baby. As it took off, it knocked the drawbridge lever, and the Doctor and Sarah Jane were able to safely cross the river. With the drawbridge raised once again, they had escaped one lot of Daleks. Daleks don't swim, and they don't like jelly babies. In fact, the list of things that Daleks can't do is long, but not as long as the list of things that Daleks don't like. They don't like kittens, they don't like flowers, they don't like ice cream, and they definitely don't like tennis. There is only one thing Daleks like, and that is exterminating things. But the Doctor and Sarah Jane were now faced with more Daleks blocking the road ahead.
Now where has it gone? Said the Doctor.
Where has what gone?
Asked Sarah Jane.
Really, Sarah, you must keep up. Ah, there it is.
Sarah Jane was becoming more puzzled by the minute as they climbed onto the bicycle that the Doctor had been looking for.
Pedal faster,
cried the Doctor as they weaved between the Daleks standing in the road, avoiding the energy rays. There was only one Dalek close enough to stop them. Luckily, it was Dale. Once they had avoided the Daleks, they came to another road, a very busy road. Fortunately, there was a stop sign that held back the traffic, and the Doctor and Sarah Jane pedaled across, but there was nothing to stop the Daleks from doing the same. Or was there? Beside the stop sign was a bucket of paint and a brush.
Well, that's lucky,
cried Sarah Jane, grabbing the brush and painting over the stop sign.
Luck, said the Doctor. Nothing to do with luck. It's called good planning. Don't forget the paint bucket.
Now that the traffic was no longer held back by the stop sign, the cars roared off, and by the time the Daleks reached the road, it was too busy to cross. Finally, they reached the TARDIS.
Why on earth did you make me bring all this stuff along with us?
Sarah Jane asked.
Well, there is a perfectly obvious reason. If we did not bring these things along, then how would we be able to go back and leave them for us to find later?
The Doctor replied.
But that's about as clear as mud,
cried Sarah Jane.
I do have a time machine, and I am a Time Lord, so I can go back in time and practice. As we all know, practice makes perfect, and I never travel anywhere without a jelly baby.
Dr. Fifth. It had been a very long day, but 5 minutes in the zero room would set the Doctor straight. "That's just what the Doctor ordered," announced the Doctor when he awoke. "Although I do feel a little peckish. I fancy a snack."
"We're all out of food,"
said Nysa, looking in the fridge.
"Not a sausage."
"We'd better pop down to Earth and restock," said the Doctor. The Doctor let Adric take the TARDIS controls, and they landed in the car park of a supermarket.
"Well, that's not the cleverest bit of parking I've ever seen,"
commented Tejan.
"At least I'm allowed to fly the TARDIS,"
said Adric, bristling. Now, said the Doctor. "No bickering, please." They all walked into the supermarket, where the Doctor had the strangest feeling. He could have sworn that he had seen the little old lady pushing a shopping trolley before. There was something very familiar about her. Maybe it was the beard. However, the Doctor was quickly distracted by the thought of what to eat. They wandered from aisle to aisle. They peered down the canned goods aisle. "We're not going down there," declared the Doctor. "That's the sort of canned good I would like to avoid."
"How about a pizza?"
suggested Nysa. "Perfect," agreed the Doctor. Adric rushed ahead to the freezer section to have a look.
"Can you help me?"
asked the little old lady when he got there. Adric happily opened the freezer door for her.
"Where's Adric got to? We should stick together,"
complained Tejan.
"I have discovered, living with the Doctor, that going off on your own only leads to trouble."
And sure enough, when they got to the freezer section, Adric was in trouble. He was trapped in a freezer.
"I knew it!"
cried Tejan. "Quick, let's get him out," said the Doctor. But as they opened the door, the little old lady rushed at them from behind and knocked them into the freezer with her trolley. They were all trapped.
"Well, I think we can safely say that it's all Adric's fault,"
said Tejan. Adric glowered at her, or at least he tried to, but his face was frozen. "Fooled you!" cried a voice from outside the freezer. It was the Master, gleefully waving a little old lady's wig and dress. "Welcome to my trap!" "I knew I recognized you from somewhere!" exclaimed the Doctor.
"Doctor, I'm cold!"
stuttered Nysa. "Be brave, Nysa," said the Doctor, pulling out his sonic screwdriver.
"Let me guess! A sonic screwdriver to the rescue! What a surprise!"
mocked Tejan. "Stand back!" cried the Doctor.
"Easier said than done in a freezer!"
muttered Tejan. Then the Doctor blasted the freezer door off its hinges. They leaped from the freezer to discover all the shelves in the supermarket had been moved around.
"The Master has rearranged the store!"
cried Nysa. And she was right. The Master had created an impossible maze. "It's my trap within a trap," laughed the Master. "You will never find your way out." "What we need," said the Doctor, "is a bag of frozen peas."
"Frozen peas?"
questioned Adric.
"What a ridiculous suggestion!"
But he was wrong, because as they explored the maze, the Doctor left a trail of peas so they knew where they had been and were able to find a way out. "To the TARDIS!" cried the Doctor as they escaped from the supermarket. But the TARDIS was nowhere to be seen. The pickup truck had driven away. They ran around the car park searching for some sign of it.
"There!"
cried Nysa suddenly. And there was the TARDIS, emerging from a car wash on the back of the pickup truck. Once they had got the TARDIS back from the truck driver and were safely aboard, the Doctor retired to the zero room for a much-needed rest. It had been a long day. 5 minutes later, he appeared refreshed and restored. "Just what the Doctor ordered," he said. "Although, I do feel rather peckish." Dr. Sixth. The Doctor and Perry were travelling through time in the TARDIS when the Doctor suddenly looked concerned. "This is most unusual," cried the Doctor,
time is being twisted.
But how do you know?
Asked Perry. How do I know? Spluttered the Doctor. Look! Look at the clock! Quick! We must land! The TARDIS is twisting! It can't travel through twisted time! Exclaimed the Doctor. He then steered the TARDIS towards the nearest planet. Unknown to the Doctor and Perry, there was another TARDIS that had already landed on the planet. Another TARDIS and another Time Lord. Or rather, a Time Lady. The Doctor and Perry stepped out of their TARDIS and went to explore the planet. It was a quite unusual place, but in a strangely familiar way. I think this is the blue planet, said the Doctor.
You don't say,
laughed Perry. We must find what is causing time to twist so catastrophically. It is a conundrum that presently bamboozles me, but I have absolute confidence that I shall achieve a positive resolution, announced the Doctor.
So, what you are trying to say, in your long-winded way, is that you are going to sort everything out,
said Perry, grinning. You could say that, but it is not so eloquent, huffed the Doctor. Suddenly, they were surrounded by a crowd of locals, a crowd of angry-looking locals, angry blue locals. They don't look very friendly, remarked the Doctor.
Doctor, what's happening?
Cried Perry.
Are they taking us prisoner?
I have a suspicion that we are about to find out who is behind all this, said the Doctor. And the Doctor, who was rarely ever wrong, was right. The Ranny! He cried as the crowd parted to reveal the Ranny.
Hello, old friend,
the Ranny greeted him.
Having trouble with your TARDIS?
So it is you who has twisted time, exclaimed the Doctor. Look, Perry, rather than a key, she has used a corkscrew to wind up the time continuum. And she has hypnotized all these poor locals and taken control of their minds, he added, getting redder in the face by the second. The Doctor puffed out his chest and threw back his head. You despicable, vile creature! He bellowed. A boiling anger had grown in the Doctor, and he now roared and thundered all his rage at the Ranny. The force of his anger was so great that he shook the crowd of locals right out of their hypnosis. The Ranny lost her control of their minds, and the locals of the blue planet were once again free. The Ranny, realizing that all her plans were lost, turned on her heel and ran. Stop her! Ordered the Doctor, but it was too late. The Ranny had disappeared. The Doctor asked the crowd to go and capture the Ranny's TARDIS so that she could not escape from the planet. While his orders were being carried out, the Doctor carefully removed the corkscrew from the time continuum and rewound it with the correct key.
You really outsmarted the Ranny, said Perry.
I did, didn't I? Said the Doctor, beaming proudly. Still, when you have a brain as prodigiously clever as mine, it is not so difficult.
Unlike a little modesty,
muttered Perry. What's that? spluttered the Doctor.
Oh, nothing,
said Perry.
I was just mentioning your honesty.
As the Doctor and Perry were returning to their TARDIS, they heard a sudden cry.
Come back with my TARDIS!
It was the Ranny chasing after a crowd of locals who were carrying off her TARDIS. Having trouble with your TARDIS? The Doctor cried with a smile. Dr. Seventh. The Doctor and Ace were on a walk through the woods. They were going to meet the Doctor's friends for tea. You're going to love it, said the Doctor, and you're going to love my friends.
I don't see why we didn't just take the TARDIS,
complained Ace. Because there is nothing like a walk through the woods in the fresh air, explained the Doctor.
It's boring is what it is,
disagreed Ace.
A boring walk to see your boring old friends.
Nonsense! It'll be fun, said the Doctor. However, when they reached the Doctor's friend's house, there was no one at home. How strange. I definitely arranged to meet for tea at 3 o'clock today, said the doctor, looking at his watch. And it is most definitely 3 o'clock, and quite positively today.
Maybe they couldn't face the thought of how boring it was going to be,
suggested Ace, unhelpfully. It was then that the doctor spotted some fresh footprints leading away into the woods, and one set of the footprints were those of a huge cat.
Well, this just went from boring to interesting,
said Ace. They set off in pursuit. They had not gone far when two figures leaped out, blocking their path. Goodness gracious, cried the doctor. It's the cheetah people!
Blimey! From interesting to exciting in a matter of moments. I think I can hold them off,
shouted Ace, rummaging in her bag. I don't think that's wise, said the doctor. The doctor and Ace dived off the path and sprinted through the undergrowth, down into a ravine. However, their escape route was blocked by a fallen tree. Oh my, said the doctor. Now we're in a pickle.
No problem. Things have just gone from exciting to fun, said Ace,
pulling a stick of dynamite from her bag.
Let's blow it up.
I don't think that's wise, said the doctor. We'll have to climb out. At the top of the ravine, they saw a figure a little way off. There's someone that might help, said the doctor. But then, the figure turned around.
We're not gonna get any help from him,
said Ace. Oh dear, you're right, agreed the doctor. That's the master!
Look at that rock! We could blow it up and trap him, suggested Ace.
I don't think explosives are really necessary, said the doctor, picking up a pine cone and tossing it at the rock. The rock was so precariously balanced that it took only the extra weight of the pine cone to bring it tumbling down, causing an avalanche.
Clever, admitted Ace, but an explosion would have been more fun.
The doctor and Ace continued cautiously through the woods until they came to the edge of a clearing, where it became clear just what the cheetah people were doing on Earth. They had captured the doctor's friends.
What we need is this,
said Ace, grinning and holding up her stick of dynamite. What we need is a carefully thought-out plan, said the doctor. I think this calls for a bit of the old magic. A short while later, the doctor stepped into the clearing. Roll up, he called. Prepare to be amazed. Prepare for marvelous acts of magic and preposterous powers of prestidigitation and astonishing feats of conjuring. With that, the doctor produced a length of rope from thin air and proceeded to perform a series of magic tricks. The cheetah people gathered round in amazement and confusion. The doctor finished his act by making the rope stand on end in midair. Now, I just need the help of a member from the audience, he said. You, sir, might I ask you to pull on the end of this rope? One of the cheetah people stepped forward and pulled on the rope. A huge net fell from the branches above, trapping the cheetah people and allowing Ace to release the doctor's friends from the cage.
Ah, Professor, said Ace, looking sadly at her stick of dynamite. All that action, but I didn't get to blow anything up.
True, said the doctor with a smile, but at least it wasn't boring. Dr. 8th. While traveling through space and time in the TARDIS, the Doctor received a distress call from a spaceship. The ship was about to self-destruct. The Doctor landed aboard the ship and tried to persuade the spaceship's computer to stop, but the computer had made up its mind, and there was no arguing with it. You're a very stubborn computer, cried the Doctor as he searched for the ship's crew.
And you are a very stubborn person, replied the computer. The ship will not explode in 3 minutes.
How about adding on an extra minute? Asked the Doctor as he opened a hatchway with a sonic screwdriver.
The ship will explode in 2 minutes, replied the computer.
Blast you! Exclaimed the Doctor.
That is my plan,
said the computer.
Unhelpfully, the Doctor raced through the spaceship, leading the ship's crew to the TARDIS.
The ship will explode in 1 minute,
declared the computer. Quickly, everybody, inside, cried the Doctor.
5,
began the computer. The Doctor closed the TARDIS door.
4,
continued the computer. The Doctor turned on the TARDIS.
3,
The Doctor flipped the switch.
2,
And that was the last they heard from the computer as the TARDIS escaped the spaceship just in the nick of time. The Doctor looked round at the spaceship's crew. I think everybody needs a holiday, he suggested, and I know just the place. A very short time later, but a very long way across space, the TARDIS landed on a beach on Earth. But when the crew stepped out onto the beach, they all suddenly ran away. Well, there's gratitude for you, huffed the Doctor. There's just no pleasing some people. And then he looked over his shoulder and saw why everybody had ran away. Oh my, he exclaimed. It's the Silurians! And indeed it was, a whole crowd of them advancing up the beach. Well, what can I do for you? Asked the Doctor, hoping that there was nothing he could do for them. This beach is ours, cried the Silurian leader. Fair enough, said the Doctor. I'll just be on my way then. But the Silurians had something else in mind. They surrounded the Doctor and the TARDIS. The sea devils have claimed this beach as theirs, but they live in the sea, and we live on the land, so the beach must be ours, said the Silurian leader. Only if you help us will we allow you to leave. Now, as you may or may not know, the Silurians and the Sea Devils were cousins, but not very close cousins, although they were equally ugly. The last thing the Doctor wanted to get involved in was an alien family squabble, but it seemed that he had no choice. The Doctor rowed out to sea to see what he could do. He asked the Sea Devils if they would give up the beach. Never! Wellowed the Sea Devil leader. It is ours! When the tide goes in, the beach is covered with water, so it is ours! The Doctor rowed back to the Silurians and reported the Sea Devil's answer. But when the tide goes out, the beach is land, so it is ours! The Doctor scratched his head. It was quite a problem. And then he had an idea. It is all very simple, exclaimed the Doctor. When the tide comes in, then the Sea Devils can swim here. And when the tide goes out, then the Silurians can play here. You can share the beach. The Silurians looked at the Sea Devils, and the Sea Devils looked at the Silurians. Well, actually that does make sense, said the Silurian leader. Yes, it does, agreed the Sea Devil leader. Now, that was easy, declared the Doctor. How about a game of volleyball to celebrate, he suggested, picking up a beach ball lying on the sand. That's our ball, cried the Silurian leader. No, agreed the Sea Devil leader. That is our ball. Oh dear, sighed the Doctor. Time to leave. Dr. Ninth. It was a lovely sunny day, and the Doctor decided to go shopping in town. The first shop he came to was a clothes shop. Good morning, said the Doctor. Hello, my name is Rose, said the woman who worked in the shop. How can I help you? I was thinking about buying a hat, replied the Doctor. I like the look of that one. He pointed to one of the shop mannequins, although there is something rather familiar about it. I'm not sure that one really suits you, said Rose. As she turned to show the Doctor some other hats, the mannequin suddenly moved its head, and then, without warning, it tried to grab Rose. Luckily, the Doctor grabbed her first, as all the other mannequins came to life. We're going to escape, exclaimed the Doctor, pulling Rose out to the street. But what's going on? Cried Rose. They've turned into Artons, cried the Doctor, running into Mr. Socket's electrical shop next door as the mannequins chased them. The Doctor used his sonic screwdriver to switch on all the machines in the electrical shop. That should distract them for a moment, said the Doctor. The whirling blenders and popping toasters and tumbling tumble dryers gave the Doctor and Rose time to escape from the electrical shop and into Miss Dinky's toy shop.
How is this happening?
Asked Rose. Autons do not act on their own. The Estant's consciousness brought the mannequins to life. They can animate any plastic object, exclaimed the Doctor. They must have a transmitter somewhere, and that is what we need to find to stop them.
It's a shame they can't bring other things to life, like a jam tart. A jam tart wouldn't be so scary,
said Rose. Rose peered anxiously out of the window.
Oh no, she cried. The Autons have caught someone.
That's not just someone, said the Doctor. That's my friend Jack. Quick, we have to help him. With a wave of a sonic screwdriver, the Doctor activated all the toys in the shop. The toys raced out of the shop, and under the control of the Doctor's Sonic, they freed Jack.
That's a very handy toy, said Rose.
This is not a toy, said the Doctor. This is a sonic screwdriver. Rose, I'd like you to meet Captain Jack Hartnell. Jack, this is Rose, said the Doctor. Nice to meet you, Rose, said Jack. Doctor, I think the Elton transmitter is up on that roof. Jack pointed to the roof above Mrs. Sprout's greengrocer's, where they could see more Altons looking down at them. What we need are some cabbages, announced the Doctor.
Cabbages?
Said Rose with a puzzled look. Yes, cabbages, and lots of them, added the Doctor. So the three of them grabbed as many of Mrs. Sprout's cabbages as they could carry and climbed up the fire escape to the roof. On the roof, they found a group of Altons guarding the control device. How's your aim? Asked the Doctor, and then he threw a cabbage. It sailed through the air and hit an Alton square on the head, knocking it clean off. Remember, they are only mannequins, cried the Doctor. Rose threw a cabbage and knocked another head off. Fantastic, the Doctor said with a grin. In no time at all, the Doctor and Rose and Jack had knocked off the heads of all the Altons, and then the Doctor disabled the Alton transmitter. With a cabbage.
What a mess, sighed Rose. How am I ever going to get the shop straightened out?
What are you saying? Exclaimed the Doctor. Here we are, just saved the whole world, and you're worrying about a shop.
Couldn't you just wave your sonic thingamajig and clean us all up?
It is not a magic wand, said the Doctor. Now, I think we all deserve a cup of tea back in the TARDIS.
What is the TARDIS?
Asked Rose. You will have to wait and see, said the Doctor, grinning. Rose was amazed by the TARDIS, or rather, she was amazed once she entered it.
How is it bigger on the inside?
She exclaimed. Ah, that's my little secret, answered the Doctor. Something I like to keep under my hat. Rose laughed.
If you had bought one, that is!
Dr. Tennant. The Doctor was enjoying a well-earned holiday on a far-off planet. A far-off planet where peace and quiet were the order of the day. The perfect planet for a holiday, or so the Doctor hoped. But the Doctor's hopes were quickly shattered by the arrival of an alien spaceship. It was the Sontarans, all dressed in armor and looking for trouble. "We claim this planet in the name of Sontar," declared General Stahl, their commander. The Sontarans immediately started to round up the local people. "Hang on a minute," cried the Doctor. "You can't just wander around space claiming planets as your own willy-nilly." "I will happily fight you for this planet," suggested General Stahl. "I'm not going to fight you," said the Doctor. "Then you are a coward. You are weak, and I am strong." "Well, if we are going to swap insults, then I would suggest you look like a potato and are rather short," said the Doctor. "Short!" spluttered the General, who, in a sudden fit of rage, lunged at the Doctor. The Doctor leaped back, and the two of them tumbled down a steep hill. Bump, 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 all the way to the bottom. At the bottom of the hill was a deep pit, and lurking in the pit was an Ogron.
fierce alien being. The Doctor desperately grabbed hold of a root growing out of the side of the hill, and as General Stahl plummeted past him, the Doctor caught him by the hand, saving him from the clutches of the Ogron. "Why did you save me? I am your enemy," said the General once they were safe. "You are not my enemy," said the Doctor. "I just want you to go home and leave this planet in peace." It was a long walk back to the TARDIS, and the Doctor and General Stahl had to cross a desert. It was very hot. "Here," said the Doctor, offering the General his flask of water. "Have a drink. You're starting to look like a baked potato." "I could not accept. A Sontaran would rather go thirsty than accept a drink from an enemy." "I am not your enemy," growled the Doctor. As the sun was setting, they reached a high cliff. "We'll have to help each other climb to the top of that," suggested the Doctor. "I will climb it alone," said the General. "A Sontaran never accepts the help of an enemy." "I am not your enemy!" cried the Doctor in exasperation. General Stahl began to climb the cliff, but, as the Doctor had predicted, the Sontaran could not climb it on his own. He fell and twisted his ankle. "Here," offered the Doctor, "take my arm. We can rest here overnight." "A Sontaran never," began the General. I know, interrupted the Doctor. "A Sontaran never takes the arm of an enemy. For the last time, I am not your enemy!" General Stahl looked the Doctor steadily in the eye. "You are." "Oh, I give up," cried the Doctor. "I just want you to go home and leave this planet in peace." "Leave this planet in peace?" exclaimed the General. "But that would be such a waste. They have the best sausages in the whole of the universe." The Doctor looked at General Stahl in amazement. "Do you mean that you have invaded this planet simply because of their sausages?" "Why else?" answered the General. "But," said the Doctor, "you don't have to invade a planet to enjoy their food." "How else would we do it?" asked the General. "Well, let me think," snarled the Doctor. "Maybe you could just come for lunch." "Really?" said the General, his eyebrows shooting up across his expansive forehead. "What? No fighting? No heroic deeds? No warfare? This sounds very boring." The next morning, the Doctor and General Stahl climbed the cliff together. As they scrambled over the top, a Sontaran guard appeared. "Well done, General!" cried the guard. "You have captured the enemy!" "Naturally," said the General. "It turns out that he is not the enemy." "At last!" cried the Doctor. "And now we can all have lunch." The Doctor and all the Sontarans sat down to a much longed-for lunch. "Sausages all around!" ordered the Doctor when the waiter came to their table. "I'm terribly sorry, sir," said the waiter, "but we are all out of sausages." Dr. 11th. It had been a very busy day filled with danger. Even the Doctor, whose life was filled with danger, could hardly remember a more unpleasant day. He sipped his tea, and then an awful thought occurred to him. "Bother! I've left something behind," he said to River Song. "We are going to have to go back and retrace our footsteps until we find it." "Don't be daft," exclaimed River. "I'm not going through all that danger all over again. Once was bad enough." "But what I left behind is vital." "Why don't we just go back in time and get whatever you have lost?" asked River. "After all, we do have a time machine." "The trouble is, I can't remember where in time I lost it," explained the Doctor. "All right then, sweetie. Off we go." "Quick, follow me," said River, climbing a wall. "But that's not the way we went last time," said the Doctor. "Maybe not, but we need to avoid the Zygons." "What Zygons?" asked the Doctor. Those Zygons! Called River as the two rabbits suddenly transformed into Zygons. Yowza! Shrieked the Doctor, scampering up the wall behind River. Gosh, said the Doctor, following River across a rope bridge. You never know when a Zygon is going to pop up next. That's the trouble with Zygons, said River. 1 minute you're looking at a cute rabbit, and the next it's a deadly Zygon. This way, sweetie, said River. Geronimo! Cried the Doctor as he tried to catch up. And look out for those Solarians, called River. The Doctor pulled himself up and barely swung over their heads. River laughed. I don't know how you'd ever get along without me. I'm perfectly capable of coping on my own, huffled the Doctor, who promptly fell through a hole in the roof. Help! He cried. You were saying? Said River, jumping through after him. The Doctor and River landed on the floor of an ancient temple. Any sign of what you're looking for? Asked River. No, but I do remember we came this way before. Look, it's the Weeping Angels! Remember, look, but don't blink. Blink, began the Doctor. And we are dead. Yes, I know, finished River. She and the Doctor cautiously made their way past the angel statues, making sure that they did not take their eyes off them. To look away would have caused terrible trouble. One might say that in the blink of an eye, they escaped the Weeping Angels, but one blink of an eye would have been enough to allow the statues to come alive and attack them. So there was no blinking of any eyes. However, once they had safely escaped the angels, they were faced with a new danger. Snakes! A whole pit full of snakes. I was really hoping you might have found what you were looking for before we got here, said River. I hate snakes, she added. There, it's not so bad, is it? Asked the Doctor. River gave the Doctor a withering look. Whatever it is you have left behind had better be worth it. The snakes hissed in agreement, and River shuddered. Onwards and upwards, said the Doctor, climbing up a vine out of the pit. I remember this cave, said the Doctor. This is where we saw the giant spider. Now, what did we do next? We ran! Shrieked River, spotting the giant spider lurking in a corner of the cave. And she and the Doctor ran, and ran, and ran some more, as fast as their legs would carry them. Which, as you might imagine when you are being chased by a giant spider, is very fast indeed. They escaped the spider, and River was trying to remember what horror came next when the Doctor suddenly stopped. Here it is! He cried jubilantly. And there on the ground was a hat. A fez hat. The Doctor's fez hat. I don't believe it! Exclaimed River. You made me go through all of that all over again for a hat! But it's my favourite hat, said the Doctor sheepishly. The Doctor and River finally got back to the TARDIS, and for the second time that day, they settled down to a nice cup of tea. In fact, there was nothing that they had not done for the second time that day. Gosh! Exclaimed the Doctor. Where did I put my hat? River looked up in consternation, and then she laughed. It's on your head, silly! Dr. Twelfth. The Doctor leapt out of the TARDIS and ran as fast as he could to keep up with Missy. She had led him back in time to ancient Egypt. You're getting slow and old, Missy laughed. The Doctor frowned. Old indeed. He was a Time Lord. He had lived for centuries. Of course he was old. But so was Missy, because she was also a Time Lord. The Doctor arrived inside the pyramid just in time to see Missy steal a scepter from a sarcophagus. What is she up to? Muttered the Doctor. Up to no good, came the reply in the Doctor's head. But that was an easy answer. Nowadays, it seemed like there was no good in Missy. She acted all bad, but the Doctor knew better. Just like the Doctor, Missy could travel through time, but she used a vortex manipulator on her wrist. The Doctor followed, back in time to the Tower of London. Now Missy was stealing the crown jewels. "Stop!" cried the Doctor, but it was too late. "Just for once, I wish I could arrive early," huffed the Doctor in frustration. He followed her again through time to Japan, where Missy had stolen a gold statue. "Too slow!" cried Missy, and then she was gone. "I think I'll call you Dr. Slow," cried out Missy when the Doctor caught up with her in Russia. Now she had stolen a jeweled egg. The Doctor was puzzled. Why was Missy stealing all these jewels? Were they Christmas presents? Was she going to open a jewelry shop? Was she going to sell them and buy a yacht and sail around the world? All these thoughts seemed very unlikely to the Doctor. Missy loved to cause trouble, the sort of trouble that might destroy the Earth. "Of course," thought the Doctor, "that is exactly what she's trying to do." The Doctor was not at all happy. He had just realized something else. All this chasing Missy through time meant he had missed lunch, and now he was hungry, but he had to keep going. Their next destination back in time was the Wild West. Missy had stolen a bag of gold dust. And then the Doctor was in Paris, but he had forgotten to leave the horse in the Wild West. It was chaos, and in the chaos, Missy stole a diamond ring. Finally, the Doctor caught up with Missy a very long way back in time, in the Stone Age, and finally the Doctor was there in time. "You think I'm too slow to work out what you are doing, don't you?" said the Doctor. "But I'm quicker than you think." The Doctor then emptied a bag of cybermats on the ground. "You thought you could fool me by taking all these jewels," he added. "I retraced our chase and found these cybermads left behind in each spot." "Well, clever old you. Do you know what my plan was?" asked Missy. "Haven't a clue," said the Doctor. "All I know is that I have saved the world." "But you have to allow me to explain my devious plan," whined Missy. "No, don't care. I'm off now." "Where are you going?" asked Missy miserably. "Back in time," replied the Doctor. "Back in time for something far more important." "But what could be more important than hearing all about my dastardly crime?" cried Missy. "Lunch." Dr. 13th. Yaz was very excited. It was the day before her birthday, and she wondered what the Doctor and Ryan and Graham had planned. She had no idea. Funnily enough, the Doctor and Ryan and Graham had no idea either. What could they do for Yaz's birthday?
"How about cake?" suggested Ryan.
"And candles and balloons," added Graham.
That's all a bit predictable, isn't it?"
said the Doctor. "Not if it's a surprise birthday party," said Graham.
"And not if it's a very cool cake, and very cool candles, and very cool balloons," added Ryan.
"But where will we get those?"
asked the Doctor. "Well," said Graham, "we thought that would be your job, Doc."
"After all," added Ryan, "we've done the hard part, coming up with an idea."
The Doctor groaned, but she wanted to make Yaz's birthday special. So, off they set in the TARDIS. She flew across space to the planet of Suntar, where she had heard there was a bakery, which was a bit of a surprise, as the Suntarans were terrible, warlike people who liked nothing better than fighting. She bought a cake, a Suntaran frosted boom cake.
"What is a boom cake?"
asked the Doctor.
"A cake with a surprise in it," explained the baker.
"A surprise cake for a surprise party," said the Doctor. "That is perfect."
The Suntaran baker smiled. The Doctor set off again in the TARDIS in search of candles and balloons. She went back in time to London, back in time to the 1940s and the Blitz, where she found some balloons, some enormous balloons. The balloons were so big that they had slowed the TARDIS down as they travelled above London. The TARDIS flew even further back in time to Paris, an old-fashioned Paris lit by candles, where the Doctor found just what she was looking for. The Doctor then flew forward through time, back to Graham and Ryan. They could not believe their eyes as the TARDIS came into land, trailing the huge balloons. And they were even more taken aback when they saw the cake in the candles. The cake had begun to bubble and froth.
What is that?
Exclaimed Ryan.
It's a Santaran frosted boom cake,
said the Doctor proudly.
And do you think a boom cake is a good idea?
Asked Graham, but it was too late to argue. Yaz had arrived.
Happy surprise birthday!
Cried the Doctor and Ryan and Graham in unison. And with her sonic screwdriver, the Doctor lit the candles she had placed on the cake. Boom! Covering the TARDIS team in pink chocolate.
Maybe that's a happy boom day,
laughed the Doctor.
I have to say, this tastes pretty good,
chuckled Yaz.